They talk about the boom, but do they mention the bust? The headlines scream luxury, but the numbers don't lie. It's time to look the market straight in the eye.
Welcome to the Miami Condo Exchange, where we break down the price, the scope, and the range.
With Peter Zalewski, the authority here, making the complex simple, making the murky clear. From the buy-side pressure to the sell-side heat, we're tracking every move on the concrete street. We got the data, the stats, the metrics you need. Beyond the flash and the glamour, we're planting the seed of truth. We analyze the trends, we map out the spread. Is it vintage charm or a money pit trap? We're looking at the analytics, closing the gap. Past performance, present shock, future prediction. Separating hard reality from the friction of fiction. No sugarcoating, no fluff, no disguise. Just the raw condo numbers right before your eyes. South Florida is shifting, the tides start to turn. If you don't know the math, you're gonna get burned. Yeah, this is the Miami Condo Exchange.
Welcome to the Miami Condo Exchange, where we break down the price, the scope, and the range.
With Peter Zalewski, keeping it real, digging deep in the dirt of every single deal. From the buy-side pressure to the sell-side heat, the only podcast you need on the Miami street. Hey.
Real numbers, real talk.
The hyperbole stops here. This is the Miami Condo.
Condo Exchange, y'all.
Happy Tuesday, Miami. This is Miami Condo Exchange, a conversation about what's going on statistically the Tri-County, South Florida market of Miami-Dade, Broward, Palm Beach counties. I'm Peter Zalewski. I'm a condo consultant, expert witness, founder, Miami Condo Investing Club. I want to welcome to this week's program. I do it every Tuesday at 4 o'clock where we talk about condo statistics, give you the latest trends, and also give you an update of what's going on with the South Florida Condo Association Financial Cliff Index. We also have an index that tracks the vintage condos. That is those condos that are at least 30 years old or older. They're the ones that come under greater scrutiny as a result of what happened back in June of 2021 when the Surfside condo tragedy occurred, where nearly 100 people died and a $1 billion settlement was paid out to the families of the victims. We're going to be talking about this week how the South Florida Condo Cliff Index has gone up and reached yet another record high. We have been on an upward trajectory ever since January. Why? Well, one reason is sellers are discounting pricing because of everything related to what we call the Florida Condo Association Financial Cliff. What is the cliff? The cliff's a situation where you're in a building, all of a sudden the costs go up, your neighbors stop paying. Therefore, fewer people have to bear the burden. They have to cover more, services get cut. The building runs itself into a situation where on one side, it's expensive and less services. On the other side, some people start to fall out. They start to lose their condos. They start to sell their condos. And remember, 4 transactions in a building will reset all of the pricing. At least that's what I was told by a commercial real estate appraiser. Think Tetris. That's what we're experiencing right now. One of the reasons that we're really seeing a ratchet up is that we have 31 days left in the ever important, always important, forever important South Florida winter buying season. That winter buying season goes from November through April. And during that time, a lot of people come to town. They come here for an event. They come here for a vacation. They come here for a cruise. While they're here, they realize, hey, it's not such a bad place. And they think about maybe investing. Maybe they're going to buy a condo and they're going to Airbnb it. Maybe they're going to buy a condo as a second home and they'll come down here a few times a year. maybe they're going to think about relocating down here. And what happens is people start shopping for a condo. Inevitably, if they do find a condo, they're going to buy. By the time they find a condo, by the time they do whatever it is they're doing, they go under contract. They have to do due diligence. If they're all cash, they're probably closing 30 days later. If they're using financing, they're closing about 60 days later. So inevitably, many of the deals transact in the summer buying season, which is going to be from May through October. Problem with the summer buying season is there is heat, there is humidity, and there's also hurricane warnings. And as a result of that, the buying pool thins. And as it thins, the only people left standing are those guys and women looking for a deal. They're data dependent, they're data oriented, and they understand the market, and they also understand valuation. So what that means is if a seller wants to get out and they want to take advantage of maybe somebody who's fallen in love with South Florida and they're sort of willing to accept the price and pay it, probably better find one of these buyers during the winter, because in the summer, the only people in town are looking for a deal. The others are going to the Hamptons. They're going to Europe. They're going to Canada. They're going anywhere, maybe North Carolina, anywhere but South Florida. Why? Because, again, the heat, the humidity, and the hurricane warning. So 31 days left. That's all sellers have. And at that point, if they haven't waved enough shiny objects and they haven't rolled out the bells and whistles, chances are they're riding it through probably until September. At least that's normally how it plays. This year might be a little bit different. Why? We got the World Cup. The FIFA World Cup is coming to North America, United States, Mexico, Canada. That starts in June. A lot of people might be coming to town for some of the matches over here in Miami. They might be more focused on the football, the soccer, and the partying rather than looking for a condo. That'll go from June through July. August, always a dead month. Why? Because people are taking their kids on vacation before school goes back. And then when we get into September, typically right after Labor Day, things typically start to ramp up. Although this year we have a very interesting midterm election, a lot of stuff going on in Washington. There's a lot of push it back based on the way things are being run, whether it's immigration, it's the war, it's affordability, any of that type of stuff. So watch for maybe some buyers sit on the sidelines, wait to see what happens with the midterm election, because they could go one way or the other and maybe not necessarily pull the trigger and go forward until after the election, which is the beginning of November. So what we might be looking at right now is the end of that opportunity for those sellers who want to get out to basically find a buyer. And if they're not able to find a buyer, chances are those sellers might have to wait all the way till around mid-November, maybe even December. So this could be a lost summer for many, and that's something we're watching for. And as a result, we would argue you have sellers cutting their prices. Buyers are getting off the couch because prices finally make sense, and they're going forward, and they're going under contract. We've been tracking what we call the South Florida Condo Association Financial Cliff Index. Been tracking it since January the 1st of 2025. That's when we said the cliff would begin, and effectively it's beginning. It's in full steam, and it's really seems to be going on right now as we speak. So again, we look at overall, then we look at vintage. Vintage 30 years old or older. These are the ones that have to go through milestone inspections and its scrutiny. So we track it. On the overall side, we got South Florida, we got Miami-Dade County, we got Broward County, we got Palm Beach County. Then we have an additional 19 markets, which go from everywhere from Coconut Grove in Miami all the way up to downtown West Palm Beach in Palm Beach Island. We also then mirror that, and we do the vintage condos in all 23 of those markets. South Florida, Miami-Dade County, Broward County, Palm Beach County, and then all the other markets from Coconut Grove all the way up to downtown West Palm Beach in Palm Beach Island. So that's what we're going to be getting into. We're going to be talking about that. And also, too, for the first time, we're going to be rolling out numbers, pricing. We're going to tell you what's going on price-wise in the marketplace. Not necessarily more than an indicator. It's a snapshot. Why? Because a lot of people rely on closed sales data. Closed sales data, the thing with closed sales data is it's after the fact. It's looking in the past. The index that we have is sort of giving you a foresight into the future. It's giving you an idea of what might be going on. If you look at Wall Street, typically what they say is unemployment number will tell you where we were. The indices, whether it's the Dow Jones, the S&P, the NASDAQ, that's kind of telling you where we're going forward. And we're trying to create we try to create this indice to give you a real-time idea as to where we are week over week over week. We always update it every Tuesday, and then we do this podcast. But now we're rolling out the pricing aspect, so we're going to be able to gauge what's going on the pricing side. Rest assured, or keep in mind, or be aware that when you look at the pricing until it's a closed sales data, it's all basically just speculation. So for the pricing numbers are going to be rolling out, they're going to be active listings, asking prices, average, and then there'll be pending sale averages. So That doesn't necessarily mean that when the property goes under contract, that that's the price it'll trade at, but simply this is what it was listed at when it went under contract. So again, it's not foolproof, but it'll give you a sense. It'll help you understand the sentiment in terms of where we were. So we're going to roll that out today, and then going forward, we'll always have the two. So we'll have the indices, which is basically tracking what's the velocity like with pending sales and active listings. And then we're also going to roll out the pricing just to sort of give us a second indicator to be able to track what's going on in this particular market. And also, too, as we wrap up today's podcast, we'll also be marking the end of the first quarter, which means sometime in mid-April, the numbers from Q1 will be rolled out by the real estate industry, and you guys are going to be able to get a sense of what's going on. One thing to watch for when you're watching for the numbers as we get into April, there's going to be a lot of talk about pricing. They're going to talk about pricing, but keep in mind, when you have fewer sales, or maybe you have more sales going on, but if you get some big number sales, that's going to skew the overall numbers that are out there. And that's one thing to watch for, because we have seen some very expensive units that have been discounted, that have traded, that basically were able to skew the numbers, leading more so to what would seem like a higher number than what's really going on the ground. We're doing some research related to the Fort Lauderdale market. And by the way, I'm doing a tour this weekend. We're doing the Fort Lauderdale, which is downtown on the beach, condo correction bus tour. We're going to take people around in a bus. We're going to show them what's going on in the condo market. We're going to give them a list of all the condo projects that exist and help them understand what's going on in the market. We'll teach them how to analyze condo buildings. We'll also help them to identify what is value and what is a value trap. So if you guys are interested in that, you can get more information on tours by going to miamicondo.club. Up at the top, you'll see tours, or go to the ticket broker, which is miamicondoclub.eventbrite.com. So let me go ahead and start to share my screen with you. I want to take you guys through. We're going to show you some line charts. After the line charts, we're going to drill down into the actual real data. And then after the data, we'll get into the prices. And I'll be able to give you guys a perspective as to where we stand here on the last day of the first quarter, March 3rd, 31st of 2026. And I should tell you, you're watching this podcast live. And as a result of that, we're seeing it all live and for free. After this podcast is over, we will edit it. We will adjust it for sound. We'll put in a template for the look. And then we will make it available on demand if you're going to want to watch it on demand. It'll be behind a paywall at miamicondo.club. In order to get access to the paywall, you got to join the club. Miami Condo Investing Club started it back in 2024. It's about about building an ecosystem, building a community, those people interested in condos. A lot of people out there playing the game. They all play single family. They play multifamily. Not a lot of people go towards the condo game because it can be a little bit challenging. I mean, after all, right now, a cap rate's about less than 1% based on current pricing. Not a lot of people want to chase that when they're probably going to get more money in the stock market, get more money in a CD, if you will. So condos aren't necessarily really a thing. They tend to be something that people buy maybe for posterity. Sometimes they can get a return on it, but you really kind of you have to know what you're doing. And what we're doing with this Miami Condo Investing Club, we're helping you, we're empowering you to go ahead and take the information, do with it whatever you want. Whether you are a DIY buyer, whether you're a buyer with a broker, whether you're a listing agent, can't figure out why the hell you're not selling your property. Could be a lender, could be a regulator, could be a gadfly. But basically, we're providing the information, which is not Chamber of Commerce-esque, which tends to be what a lot of the sell-side people put out on the street. They're always positive about 1,000 people a day and about how we're the gateway to Latin America and so on and so forth. And what they tend to do is they tend to wave that shiny object in front of you so you take your eye off the ball, which is really what's going on in the numbers. And that's where we step in. We focus on the numbers. I was a former journalist. I did it for 13 years. After that, I wrote a column for the Miami Herald as well as the Real Deal, and always took a look at the condo market, what was going on. And now what I'm doing is I'm sharing a lot of the information that I provide and make available to Wall Street firms, and yet I'm giving you the insight. So effectively, I'm sort of your consultant on call, if you will, with the data. So you go out, you do whatever you want to do. You want to figure out what's going on the data side. Think of us, Miami Condo Investing Club, and you get more information at miamicondo.club. And this point forward, this is all the information that's going to be behind a paywall. But because you're watching live, you get to see it. Remember, every weekday at 4 o'clock, I do a podcast. Mondays, I do Miami Condo Mondays. I do it with my partner, Jenny Huertas from CVR Realty. Check out her website, cvrrealty.com. Tuesdays is Miami Condo Exchange. The idea of Miami Condo Exchange is that this is effectively a large trading pit for condos. So when you're east of Interstate 95 in Miami-Dade, Broward, Palm Beach County, these are not American dream people with a family of 4 and a dog. These are people who are speculators. These are traders of condos, just like people trade stocks. Now you order a stock or you buy a stock using Robinhood app or using an app like Charles Schwab. Back in the day, you would have a broker. You call your broker, tell them what your order was. Your broker would call the floor. Person on the floor would write up the order. They'd give it to a runner. The runner would take it into the trading pit where everybody was yelling and screaming and trying to transact whatever it is you wanted to do. Well, when I look at condos in South Florida, I see a big trading pit. East of Interstate 95, this is purely a trading pit. People try to get in low and they try to get out high. Inevitably, many of them, they do the opposite, and that's not necessarily what you're trying to accomplish. But we're trying to give you the information to sort of check it out. So Tuesdays, we do Miami Condo Exchange. Wednesday, I do a one-on-one interview with somebody I think you need to know. It's called the Peter Zalewski Show. Thursdays, we talk distressed condo market in South Florida. It's called Condo Capitalism. And then on Friday, I wrap up the week with a conversation, a bull versus bear, with a gentleman called Daniel Hernandez over at Compass Real Estate. That show is called Buy, Sell, Hold Miami. And always can get it 4 o'clock weekdays. You can always get it at miamicondo.club. Let me go ahead and we're going to pull up the line chart. That's where we're going to start. And then after the line charts, we'll actually drill down into the real numbers kind of behind it. And for the first time ever, we're going to give you pricing. We're going to give you price per square foot. Why are we going on price per square foot? Because we think condos are commodities. We think they trade like pork bellies. They trade like orange juice, oil, salty snacks. It's all trading. If you go to the grocery store, you're looking per ounce. You go to the gas station, you're looking per gallon. When you look at condos, because it's a commodity, you're looking per square foot. Too many people try to get you to believe that, oh, it's something special and there's a brand and marketing. At the end of the day, it is cement, it is rebar, and it's basically predictable pricing on housing. When you're in a single-family house, you're talking about a work of art, something that's unique. The shape of the lot, the trees, how many trees? Does it puddle? How far is it from the end of the block? The traffic? What school district? A condo? All of the pricing can basically be figured out mathematically. But because it's South Florida, you make sure you go and you check out that condo because we got a lot of scammers down here. And as a result, you might be thinking you're buying a condo, but it might not actually exist. That's kind of a joke, taking us back to the 1920s when we had the great Florida land boom and people were selling dirt or land that was actually below, the water. So just a little fun and games there. But anyways, condos are commodities. In our opinion, they trade like commodities. You might pay a premium to get into it. You might over improve it, but in a market like we have today, where sales are slow, well, sales are on the rise a little bit, but prices are cracking. Supply is growing. In a market like that, just because you over improved your condo, you're not getting more money for it. You have the ability to get out sooner. Why? Because commodities trade based on commodity pricing. It's always been like that, and it'll probably always be like that, at least as far as I'm concerned. So let's go ahead. We're going to share our screen, and we're going to get into some of the line charts so you guys get a good sense of what's going on here. And screen share is coming up.